Hey everybody, welcome back to a new episode of Vanya's homestead journey. And this episode, I want to talk a little bit about the forest and the forest in general. And well, specifically about how the forest regenerates. Because I don't know if you remember the video that I made like 3 months ago. And that was about me planting 100 trees. Even more, I think. I don't really remember the exact number. But I planted a lot of trees. And of that trees, to my surprise, even though they got into way better soil than I took them from, and in easier conditions, and I've watered them through the warm times, like the really sunny dry times, they didn't seem to go. So maybe 20%, not even maybe, survived or is surviving still. And then I thought, how is that possible if you plant and take care of a small tree like that in better soil? How is it possible that it doesn't take off? So what I did is I read a couple of books about the subject because I'm generally interested in it, but I never thought about how nature does it on its own. I've looked at it as from a human perspective, like we always do, right? So even with my best intentions of rehabilitating the land, I kind of messed up by being human about it. So then I started looking into how does nature do it, and I think to show all of you how nature does it, I have a really cool example really close to home. So that little piece of bush, forest, whatever, that is where my house is behind. You can see the electrical cable going through to the house. Here is the real forest, like a couple of hectares at least. I don't know how many hectares. I don't know. It's a long. You can get terribly lost in it, even in a car. I would say. So it's a big piece of forest. And then, of course, everybody always talks about Sweden and how much forest there is and how beautiful it is, and it is all true. But there's also a darker side, I would say. But there's a lot of wood lumbering going on in Sweden. A lot of it. So as you can see here, this patch that I'm standing here next to our house is all cut down, and there's a way bigger part over there that is also all cut down. And if you drive into the forest for a couple of kilometers, then you will come across more places like that. And I thought, okay, I got the theoretical knowledge now about how it works, so let's see around the house on places like this how nature rehabilitates itself and how the forest slowly crawls back onto these places. And I know if you want to help the forest, like I want to do around here, and like I was planning to do right next to our house with 100 trees, you go a little bit against nature. I went a little bit against nature with my best intentions, by the way. What we usually do is clear the place out, maybe do something to the soil to make it better, like fertilize it, which I did. I sprayed it with poop, pretty much, and then plant trees on the places that we want trees, right? That's not how nature works. And I took you to this place to show you how nature does work, and it's really interesting. When the land like this gets cut, it takes a lot of nutrients and types of minerals out of the ground. And if we plant something and put those same trees on there, they're not going to have the nutrients that they need because it's out of the ground. And that's basically because the whole canopy that protected the whole ground, the whole soil area from the sun is now gone for a while. and therefore the ground dries out. So what needs to happen first, and what nature does, is make sure that the soil is good again, so trees like spruce and pine can grow, and birch. Now you see here, at some places they grow immediately and they can make it. What you see more is trees like poplar and birch. They do it better on open spots like this. So if you see here, like on the ground, there's a lot of this is poplar, and a lot of poplar. And the cool thing about it, from the side of there, where a couple of poplars are, of course, it crawls slowly back onto this open spot, open area. Let me walk here. Everything you see here on the ground, pretty much, the whole green patch, if we zoom in on it a little bit, it's all new poplars coming. If we go to the other side, and that is where the spruce and the pine will come from, because that's the forest. What nature does, here it is coming from poplars and birch, and they manage just fine on the soil, and they slowly crawl towards closing in on the open spot. That's that part. We could imitate that by just planting them, as long as we do it close enough to the bigger ones to get their shade. You never see a poplar just popping up somewhere. They always crawl slowly to it. It's like a wave that comes over the land, and you can really see it really well. There it ends, and then it starts again from this side. So this comes from the forest, this whole wave, and that whole wave comes from the poplar trees, which is a different sort of need when it comes to soil. Now, what I was telling is that the spruce trees that grow here, which this part of the forest is mainly spruce trees, when that wants to grow towards here, it needs something in the ground. And what nature does is it covers the ground. And you see that in agriculture also, that they plant cover crops to put certain nutrients back in the soil. That's what nature does on its own also, and that's really, really awesome. And it comes with some nice benefits. This whole patch is pretty much nature's cover crops, and they come out of nowhere. In the forest, there's pretty much nothing of this growing, just on the edges. And that made me wonder and made me look into it, because I noticed it and I thought it was like, why is that only there, growing there? Well, I will show you what it is. I can walk in random, it doesn't really matter, but it's nice to see a nice one. I'm talking about this stuff. In this case, raspberry. And a lot of it. It's a little bit under it in some cases. You see? They're really good. That's not the point. The point is that this is gonna cover the grasslands first. Look, there's Nala. Nala, are you coming to make a video? She's safe. She follows me around, or Josephine, into the forest, and then she just comes back home with us. So that's she's really good little cat like that. So what I was saying, nature is making these cover crops. These crops have two functions. They're gonna put the nutrients back in the ground that this ground now lacks because it has been cut down. What it also does is it provides a habitat for young saplings, like spruce in this case, to grow without the risk of it being destroyed, eaten, taken, whatever, by whatever. wildlife or boars or something like that, because of the thorns. So what nature pretty much does, and that's super cool, while putting nutrients back into the ground, it's giving its own children, its own saplings, the chance to crawl back into the land in a safe environment. And that's so cool to me. So that's why the trees that I planted didn't take off, because I didn't create that safe environment and nature wasn't ready for it. So I forced those saplings onto ground that, even though the ground had a lot of nutrients in it, it might not have the right ones in it. And it definitely didn't have the protection that these raspberries offer. And look at it. Nature is just filling it up. Filling this area up with raspberries. Making it ready to become a new forest. That's awesome, right? And look, you can see that it's happening from there. There's a patch that is mostly poplars, and now the poplars are a little bit higher, they grow more easy. And then you see in the bottom there that young spruce are also giving it a go. They're giving it because they are protected by the other ones, and they grow out of the ground now. You don't see them in the middle of it. You don't see them here. You do see them in there. It baffles me. This makes me realize so strongly that as a human, I always feel, but I think I speak for most humans, or maybe even for humanity in general, we feel like we have to interfere with nature to make it work. But the opposite is true. It's all about, if you want to regrow a forest, or rehabilitate, or whatever, how you say that, regenerate a forest, the best way to do it is to take your hands off it and give nature a chance to do it herself. And then it happens. This was completely flat and without any trees or whatever last winter. And now you see this symbiosis of little trees working with the cover crops, working with the grass, and something we don't see now because I'm here, but it's also working with grazers. And grazers take exactly what they need from here. We have different sorts of grazers here. We have the moose that takes a certain layer of the ground covers. We have the little roe deer that take a different layer, and they're all very picky on what they eat. And so there's a perfect balance in between who eats what and who carries what to where, and everything is the way it should be, in balance, as long as we don't interfere. Even if we messed it up like this. Well, again, a little bit of chaotic video, but I'm reading a lot on the topic, and I think it is very important for people to see that interference, even if the intention is to make it better, or to preserve, or to save nature, or to rebuild a forest or something, we are just not patient enough. We want it now. We always want everything now. And nature doesn't do now. A tree like a spruce can be up to 900 years old. There's a different perception of time than that we have. We want to have a forest next week. I wanted to have a green cover on the side of my house next winter, or maybe 2 winters from now. And so I was now looking into getting willows, because they grow almost 90 centimeters a year, and 90 centimeters a year sounds better to me than 60 centimeters a year, because that is faster, and I just wanted to have it green, so I get my shade. But I realized that is not how nature intended it to be. Nature planned something else. And that's why I see on the place that I grew it, and I'll paste it in here, that it's poplars that are doing really well, because they're coming in from both sides, and the poplars protect the poplars. And from the other side, there's maybe some birds, but it's also mostly poplars. The spruce that I planted and pine, most of them are dead. And that is just because the ground is not ready for it, the place is not ready for it, and I'm forcing that on that. I'm just walking into the forest so you can see that there's basically none cover crops like out there. Well, there are, but different ones. There's no raspberry here. Look, it's all moss. It's all blueberry, lingonberry, some heather sometimes. That's it. There's no raspberry in the forest. There's no need for raspberry in the forest. If I would plant raspberry here because I want raspberry, it's just gonna die. Same as if I plant spruce where I want a spruce, it's just gonna die. So I guess I'm having poplar there. Oh, this is really cool, by the way. Have you ever seen these? Probably. Like a little lemon plant. I'm not sure the name of it, but it tastes like lemon. Lemongrass, I think. Not sure. It's good. Really good. Sometimes we don't have lemon anymore, and Josephine puts it in the food. Really good. But again, that's not what we're talking about. Look, no raspberry at all. Another cool thing about this place is that even though there is a lot of little spruce trees, like a lot, you see all the little saplings, the little baby trees, like, you almost see nothing in between. Do you see that? There's no in-between layer. So we got a baby layer, there's this, saplings, and then you would expect, if there's so many, because there's quite a lot, that there's also a layer a little bit higher and a layer a little bit higher until you reach the full-grown trees, right? Well, there's not. And the reason for that is that there is a sort of an etiquette between trees. Trees, oh, now I'm going a different direction with my story, but it's really cool, and you can see it here also. Trees have a hierarchy, so there's a hierarchy of importance between trees. Some trees are more important to the forest than other ones. Some don't play by the rules and get punished for it. I don't know if I see an example for that right now, but I can tell you. Like this tree, this is a spruce tree, and you see that it has a pretty smooth bark, right? And even though it's really high, it's a big high tree. I'm gonna walk to another one. Oh, there's that one. Oh, yeah, of course. Always like that. Like I don't see a right tree in the fucking forest. But you see this one also. This is the same type of tree. Do you see the difference in texture? Well, it's about the same height. All of the trees here are about the same height. But that doesn't mean, even the same thickness, but that doesn't mean they have the same age. And that's a really cool thing about it. Sometimes nature or the forest lets a tree wait in a certain state, so the tree stays small because the forest wants it to stay small, before it lets it shoot out. That's a social hierarchy. There is some you could call it intelligence in some way. And if you read the book Secret Life of Trees, I think it's called, he explains it so well and so beautifully that you will never just cut down a tree again after that. This also, you see, it's winter. Some stuff. Look at the sap. It has some hits. This one is a lot older than that one is. And it's the same with humans. You can see it by the wrinkles on their face, right? Not by how tall they are. So it's kind of the same thing. If, for example, and these trees are really beautifully placed in the forest here, but the trees that are at an open site, they do stuff they're not supposed to do. Really cool. A healthy tree in the forest looks like this, like all of them here. Even though this is sort of an IKEA forest, it's a little bit planted. But the concept is the same. This is what a spruce does when it's misbehaving. I don't know if you see what I mean. This is the right one. And this one is misbehaving. What it does is it creates, because it's near an open spot. And you see all these misbehaving trees? This is a bad school. They are around this open spot here, this open area. And of course, that is why they're misbehaving, because they have to populate this open spot. But they grow side branches. They grow a lot of side branches. And that means they take sunlight from the other ones. And that is misbehaving. Very bad misbehaving. In this case, they would probably let it, because we need this here to grow trees back into the forest on this place. So we fill up this area, and then at some point their only green is going to be on top, where it can photosynthesize without blocking the view from all the other trees, and not spending any energy where it doesn't have to. That is also why most of these little saplings that I was talking about will never make it. That is why there's no middle layer, except for here, because there's an open spot. Now, what if one tree decides, and I say decides, but you have to take it with a grain of salt, but what if one tree decides to grow really fast up in the air without the permission of the forest? Well, nature takes care of that also. The forest takes care of that also, and in a very simple way. It lets it. And that's another lesson in letting go, and that the forest can teach you, in letting go and letting it be and having patience. It's not like one tree is going to punch another one in the face and punch it down. No, the opposite is true. It's going to let it grow as fast as possible, as high as possible. And we have a saying in the Netherlands, and I don't know if it translates well to English or other languages, but we say hoge bomen vangen veel wind, which means high trees catch the most wind, or a lot of wind. And that is exactly what happens. And not just wind, but also lightning. You know that if you stick a pole in the ground and there's a lightning storm, that it's most likely to hit that. Well, nature is cleaning up trees that don't follow the forest etiquette like that. It's gonna get hit by lightning, or it's gonna take the most wind and it's just gonna fall. And you see that sometimes, and it takes down whole trees. That's the way nature cleans up, and then they make space again, and perhaps one tree that has been at mid-level height, like this one. Maybe this is a good example. I walked there. I'm just doing this random, people, so forgive me if I don't find the right examples all the time. This would be a place. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I was gonna say this would be a place where there's room for new trees to go, but there has been cutting going on, thinning of the forest, human intervention. Yeah, it's a little bit shitty, but then you can see that a skinny tree like this which is still really thin, is almost just as high. Because it has been hauled down and now has the light. And of course they want that for the industry to go really fast. But it doesn't build the same base as a tree would behave in a good forest, in a healthy forest. So now we have a skinny tree shooting up in the air. And if that gets hit by lightning or by a lot of wind, those are the ones that are going to fall. They destabilize the forest. And they, in a sense, get punished for growing so fast. And in this case, it's really unfair because it is done because of human intervention, right? Yeah, that's a little sucky. Yeah, and I'm babbling on for more than 25 minutes already. Look at this. This last thing, and then I'm gonna quit for now. Here we have a tree stump, also because of human intervention, it has been taken down. And this thing on here, you would say, oh, that's so cute. Something fell on there and started to grow. But this is probably, most likely, the same tree that has given a second chance by the forest. And it sounds all like I'm humanizing it, and that's not the intention. But I'm trying to say that this whole forest is a community, a society of, in this case, trees, but it's creatures, it's beings, and it's such a different way of looking at it. Like if you read into how natives treated the forest and the plants and the trees, it's way more humanized than we do it. For us, a tree is a thing. And if you read the book, for example, what's it called? Braiding sweetgrass. That gives you a Native American view on trees or on plants and Native Americans in general, maybe. But it opened my eyes to those things. They call it trees, and the language is different, but it's like tree people, how they call it. So you have people and tree people, and that makes you treat it very differently. I like the approach on that. I've been reading a lot about natives, and if you want, I can talk about it for hours, but we're already at half an hour or so. So in this sense, I believe the oldest spruce tree in Europe is somewhere in Sweden. I have to look it up. I'm not sure, but it's is it 9,000 years old? I don't know. It's nothing left, at least, but it's all these clones of little trees like that, and it's a really big ring of what used to be that tree. I don't want to lie. It could be 900. I have to Google it. My excitement mixes up my data in this case, so I want to be really open about that. But I'll place it somewhere here. Okay, people. I think I should stop this video now, and I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope you learned a little bit about the forest, and I hope it made you realize a little bit the same things that the forest is teaching me. If you want things to happen, the right way, then sometimes you gotta let them go. And I don't want to be all esoteric about it and have these laws of attraction stories going, but it is true. It is setting the intention. That is what nature does. It sets the intentions to go somewhere, to move somewhere, and then you have to let it go. You have to have patience with it, and you have to let nature and time do its work also, actually. And then it goes. And then the forest reclaims those whole areas over time. And that is also something that I try to apply to the rest of my life as much as possible. Something that I learned from the forest like this is to set your intentions, work your ass off, but also have patience and let nature do it. let it go. Let the control go. I hope you see my point. I hope I get it across. I hope it's not too much rambling. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, thank you for watching once again. And I see that my views are going down a little bit even. But this is my message and this is what I want to tell. So yeah, it is what it is. For you who has been watching, thanks for watching. And I see you hopefully next time on a new episode. See ya. Hey dope.